Welcome back to the Dopa Show you won't get sick of. I'm Spencer. This is Sasha. Spent most of my 20s in federal prison, but I've been off heroin since April night 2010. Got a lot of stories about the stupid stuff I did to get put in prison. But also got a lot of stories about the crazy stuff that happened while I was actually in prison. And, God forbid, you end up in prison. I want to make some of the same mistakes I made, so it's an interesting one. I did drug court the second time when I was out on bond. Completed it, graduated it. Almost didn't, though. Part of drug court, you have to do 100 hours of community service. There are various places you can do it at. And something I noticed, see, you have to go to drug court once a month. Like, you actually have to go to the court. And during this court proceeding, the people who are deemed exceptional get brought up front. Basically, gold star, you get to leave early. Then they do what is called the box, which is like, it's a jury box that they make people that do bad sit in. And the people that do bad that sit in the jury box, they call them up one at a time. Then they give them their punishments. It can usually go a weekend for your first time getting in trouble, failing a screen. A week the second time. 30 days in rehab the third time. And the fourth time is a 4-month in-jail program, which is therapeutic community, which I think is a load of BS. It's behavioral modification for people that don't have manners, but not everybody that's an addict has that issue. So better than half the people are getting treatment that's absolutely useless. It's draconian. They use it in jails and prisons, and they still haven't updated it. So yeah, the little bit of treatment they do offer inside of jails and prisons hasn't been updated. It's so far back. Like, it's like, you know how they say, like, the military is always 10 years ahead on technology? Well, prison's 20 years behind. It's terrible. And anyway, so you have to complete 100 hours of community service. And something in the drug court proceedings that I saw was, if you got kicked out of community service, had an issue, they kicked you out, then the judge said, well, if you can't do community service, you can't do drug court. There's nowhere else available for you to do it at, so I'm removing you from the program. Well, that's not true. There was always somewhere open. There was always dozens of places that were open for you to complete your community service at. The judge should have used another wording. He should have said, well, I'm not going to put up with this, so since you got kicked out of community service, I'm kicking you out of drug court. But that wasn't how he worded it. He worded it as, there's nowhere else available, which is why I'm removing you. Well, there was a woman at this community service place I had an issue with. She was nice to everybody else, gave them cookies, everything else. I could not figure out why this woman hated me so bad. I went above and beyond to be polite. I'm not disrespectful, don't scream, don't do anything of the sort, Especially with someone that holds power over me. I'm not going to do something as ignorant as that. So, there's one day I see her coming, I quit talking. I'm sweeping up one side of the aisle, the other guy's talking to me. She comes up to us, and she starts yelling at me. Not at him, and I'm like, I wasn't speaking, though. And she said, your time won't even count if you just want to do it. And I'm like, but I wasn't saying anything. And I go up to her, and I asked her if my hours would count. She slammed the window open, and she gave me a verbal thrashing. And I said, you know what, I think it would be best if I switch community service places, because it's obvious you don't like me, which make me not like you back either. And I think you're condescending and you pick favorites, and I can't understand what your problem is with me. And I said it as bluntly as that. She told them I slammed the door, everything else, and I've witnessed that I definitely did not do that. And I was letting know by my probation officer that I would have to go to the next drug court. They do different people at different times. It's a large program. You can't fit everybody in one courtroom, so every few weeks a different series of people, like every 6 weeks I'd say you go. I got bumped up. I'd have to go to drug court in 2 weeks. So during that time, I switched community service places to another place, because I knew his excuse would be, if you can't do community service, you can't do drug court, I'm kicking you out, because there are no available places. Well, there's a catch-22. What if I join another place, I get a lot of hours there, that would trump his reasoning for removing me from the program. So I switched places. I racked up like 60 hours in 2 weeks, like practically lived at the place. When I got to drug court, he said the same thing. If you can't, there are no places available. And I said, I switched place. And I kept trying to speak, which I know you're not supposed to do. And he said, you can shut up or I'll have you removed. You're getting kicked out of here. And then at the end, and I said, I spoke in case. He still removed me. Ultimately, I got back in to drug court. But the whole reasoning for kicking me out, I think that might have had something to do with it. Of course, I was given an opportunity to go back into the court and speak, at which time, I groveled and said, basically, I still said it. I said, it was like, it doesn't matter, I want to do this and everything else, but I think that the reasoning was, if it wanted to go deeper into it, it could have got pressed, and I had a very good lawyer that could have pressed it. But anyway, I had to spend 7 weeks in jail. I've been clean for the year that I spent in jail, been out for a little bit of time, and I didn't know that I was going to get back out. When I got put in jail, I thought, I'm not going to get back out. This is it. And there was a guy who I had done a number of drug court groups with. Drug court groups are basically, you have to go to these 2-hour classes 3 days a week that are just counseling, group counseling. And there was a guy in it, he always talked about analogs, like K2, stuff like that, but there was a whole wide variety of these analogs that were back then. They hadn't passed the law, so they technically weren't illegal, and they didn't show up on tests, and he was always talking about that. I thought I was not going to get back out. I thought, I'm going to be stuck in here. I'm not going to get back out on bond. I'm definitely going to prison. And I kind of got a case of the F it. F everything. I'm going to prison anyway. If there's something that can make me feel better, why shouldn't I do it? And I saw this guy walk into the pod, and he talked about how every time he got put in jail, he came stuffed to the brim up the old prison wallet. So I thought, shoot, I had a moment where I was ready to throw it all away. There's sometimes, my mom calls them God things, when just God's looking out for you. Every other time he's gotten stuff through. Every other time. And I was ready to say screw it. I was ready to say screw it. I'm going to prison anyway. Why should I not? Why should I not use? Which would have, once it's off, once that one's done, it's off to the races. It's Pandora's box. Once you open that door, you can't close that door. Once you open it, oh man, it's rough. So I see him come in, I pull him to the side, I say, hey man, what you get in this time? And he's looking, and he's like an articulate person that's smart, intelligent, very intelligent fella. And he's just like, it didn't go so good. And I'm like, what happened to you? And he told me what happened to him. It's pretty bad. It's really bad. Almost seems like he should have some sort of a lawsuit out of it, because in prison they would never do what was done to him through this county jail. In prison, people with certain situations, they put them in what's called a dry cell. Sometimes they have them in, I've seen videos of them in a straitjacket, but in prison, they put you in a cell with nothing in it, no toilet, no nothing. You gotta go in this thing, and you know how people pan for silver? Well, I guess they pan through poo and spray water through it and see what's left in there, and once people produce so many, they let them out. He was not that lucky. So he goes in, he went to drug court, they gave him however long they gave him. They probably gave him a week, a month, something like that, I can't remember what it was. But he goes in to do his standard squat and cough. That's standard in jail. They usually do it in different places, A lot of jails, they have people shower and stuff like that. Now, in Roanoke County Jail, they do have a shower in the downstairs part, but I've been in there half a dozen times. They've never, ever made me shower when I go in there. They don't make anybody. Matter of fact, when you first get to Roanoke County Jail, it's probably going to be a week before you get a shower. Because when you first get in there, they put you in, a lot of times they'll send you to the 6th floor. The 6th floor is like a 20 by 20 foot area with a toilet and 2 cells. The 2 cells are usually with somebody who's been acting up and they're screaming and hollering. And then they have like 15 people, bed to bed. You have to walk, try not to step on people's feet. It's overcrowded and it's disgusting. It shouldn't be. It's inhumane. It's what they did. Now with the regional jail, I imagine, which holds a ton of people, the overcrowding thing's been done, so I'm guessing that's not as bad as it used to be. But back then, it was wrong. It was bad. So, but anyway, he goes to do his squat and cough, which there is a toilet and then there's the shower. He's doing the squat and cough standing directly beside the toilet. There's a rookie cop who's going through the motions. I imagine The actual amount of people that do a squat and cough and something comes out is very low. I haven't heard of anybody else ever having a squat and cough that made something fall on the floor. Ever. Since rookie cops going through the motions, they tell you to lift your bits, squat, cough, all that, spread them, everything else. And he squats and coughs. And when he squats and coughs, he has a bunch of the analog things, where they change the molecule, it was legal and all that, wrapped in a thing. And he squats and coughs, and a package, about the size of an egg, from what he claimed, hits the floor. And you got to think, he's messed up too, so he probably coughed a little bit harder, he's not thinking right and everything else. And he said that the rookie cop just stood like, what just happened? And he grabbed the package, he's standing right beside a toilet, drops it in the toilet, presses the flush button. Bamoosh. No more package. It's gone. And they can't prove what he had. Even if they had gone, I don't think it's anything illegal, but it would have been sneaking stuff into a jail. I mean, either way, it's an issue. It's a law he's broken, something of that sort. So from there, what would typically happen, in a prison, when somebody gets transferred, or if somebody is suspected, they'll put people in a dry cell, like I said, and then they just have to stay in there until they pass so many and show that there's nothing left. He didn't get that lucky. He got sent to the local hospital, handcuffed. And, there's certain procedures with like a scope and a camera that's like 15 or 20 foot long. And they used that scope. They used that camera to see if anything else was left. Didn't put him to sleep. He was awake. It was retaliatory action because he got by and they couldn't prove it. So I asked him, I'm like, well, what'd you do? What'd you say? And he said, I said, ah, which I felt bad for him, but it made me laugh like crazy when he told me that. I mean, I imagine I'd say, too, and yeah, ran that scope up there and they did that. So now there's an issue. The jail's obviously going to tell the people in drug court. Now, drug court is a conditional program that if you complete it, which very large dropout rate, in order to do drug court, you enter a guilty plea. And then if you complete the program, they dismiss the felony, take it off your record. It's a first-time program, first-time felon offenders. You can have misdemeanors up in yin yang, but you can't have. For first-time felons. It's a program to not make you a felon, to give you a second chance. So they contact the drug court people, and they're doing everything they can to kick him out of drug court. But they can't kick him out of drug court. For what? What can you prove? He could have said it. He likes Skittles. He's mentally ill. That was an egg-sized package full of Skittles, and he heard they only had M&Ms in the jail, so he snuck them up the old prison wallet because he has a Skittles addiction. I mean, I'm sure there were Skittles in there, but they weren't, taste the rainbow type. They were, some other type of analog, something or another. But they can't prove it. And I saw, some of the interaction kept hearing with him, and he was stressed as could be, but he kept stern and angry, and ultimately they ended up having to let him back out into the program, in which time he completed the program. From what I heard, he ended up getting in trouble and doing a whole bunch of time later. It's inevitable. When you're living that kind of life, that type of thing can happen. But that particular time, he was able to slide by without getting in trouble. I mean, pretty severe repercussions, though, for his actions. Kind of, a deterrent, for thinking about that. Now they got body scans and everything else, which I've heard people get by with those and everything else, but it's a pretty rough story. Pretty rough. I got lucky in that situation. I got lucky he didn't have anything else on him. I had the screw-its, I had the F-its. I was going to throw everything away because I thought I was going to prison, depressed, everything else. But I didn't. And I had a very good lawyer. A very good, very good, very known lawyer. For the exact reasons, I was able to continue the program, and technically, there was something that was said that was kind of funny, because I'd done drug court before, but it's for a misdemeanor charge. I was like the only person to ever do it. It was a strange set of circumstances. I quit, did 6 weeks in jail, that was it. So there are a couple people, the judge said something along the lines was, I was the only person to ever enter drug court for a third time. And yeah, I guess it was technically, it wasn't really a third time, it was a 7-week break. I didn't do a drug, and I didn't do anything wrong. The community service lady that had an issue with my mom because she had a friend that had issues with my mom, there was a number of things, a number of factors. It was messed up, and I was really trying as hard as I could. When she slammed that window open on me and started saying everything that she was saying, I had worked as hard as I could that day. There was a truck that came, and I unloaded it quicker than anybody. And her reason was, well, if you're going to talk and you're not going to work. And I'm like, I unloaded that truck quicker than anybody else did. I said, I did twice the work everybody else did, and I did it so you'd see it. What does it matter how fast you do it? And I'm like, well, apparently it does, because you're saying I'm not working, but I literally just told you I did twice the work as everybody else, and you're telling me it doesn't matter? What sense does that make? Sometimes you can see it when you're doing everything you can to please somebody, and there is like nothing. Everything you're doing is wrong. You're like, man, what did I do? What did I do? Why are you so mad at me for? It all came out after that. It was months after that, And there was a situation, where she was made to be embarrassed. Now, Mom has a small business, donating to places like that. They're a tax write-off, and they really appreciate that. Well, there's a guy who's a part of this place who gave my mom for that, and she says, I'll tell you what, I'll donate this much, but I want you to say this in the meeting. I want it to be said. And the guy said it basically, he put her out there in front of the whole board of people, and she was embarrassed for what she did. But it was wrong. I've done wrong things, and I talk about them. I talk about a lot of the wrong things I did with a lot of the wrong intentions, people, stuff like that. I'm quick to admit when I'm wrong. If I use the wrong tone with my mom or Casey, just on the phone, and I don't even say anything bad, I'll call back and apologize, because just your tone can influence somebody's day. And just because I'm having a crappy day and I sound like I don't have time for somebody, I'll call back and apologize for that. It's part of, recovery too. It's part of NAAA, you making immediate amends. So if I make a boo-boo, I make a mistake, I'm a jerk, I'm a prick, I do something wrong, I immediately apologize, because that's what you're supposed to do. You don't leave the apology stacked up so you have to make them later. You make up for them on the spot. I would admit it now if I did something wrong with this woman. This woman had an issue with me. I could not get it. And it all made sense. So many things make sense. At the time, you drive yourself crazy wondering why. And then down the road, you end up finding out why. But anyway, if you like the video, press the like button. If not, it's 18 minutes and 42 seconds of your time in which you'll never get back. Still busy, got a lot of stuff going on. It's just everything happening at once. I'm worried now. Sasha knocking that. That mom and stepdad, they might be ill. They might have caught the Rona. So it's like, Lord, give me a break. She did get the shots for her back though, and it said it made her feel tremendously better. But now it's, what's going to happen next? Like, Lord, but I'm not facing 40 to life in federal prison. I'm not on heroin today, and my mom does not have cancer. So it's a good day. I've had problems. These are problems, but they're not in comparison to what the old problems used to be. It's all about perspective. Sometimes when you put stuff in perspective, keep positive attitude, it makes life a little bit easier. Figured I'd just leave off with that. Something to try to do instead of being negative and all that. It's all going to be good. These aren't problems compared to the old problems. Everything gets the volume turned down after you have 40 to life thrown on you, something you didn't do, and then it gets uncovered. You still have to do 8 year sentence in federal prison. So, y'all have a good one.